I think she's a great writer. She writes with a great, irrespective of when she wrote and what she wrote about, she writes with a kind of great honesty. I wrote an article about Brigitte Reimann and her book Die Geschwister, or literally the siblings, with using a title, My Brother and I. It's about a young woman whose brother defects from East Germany to the West in 1961. As in all her books, it's essentially it's about a clash between ideology and politics and human emotions, based very closely on real life, on very traumatic incident. Pretty much that's exactly what happened to her. Die Geschwister is an earlier novel. Her later works, which was published posthumously, Franziska Linke Hand, is a more expansive retelling of similar stories, and it's a little bit more bitter. By that point she was, like many people, more disillusioned with the whole socialist experiment. Yeah, the universal appeal is undoubtedly that she writes about family relationships, human relationships, love, sex. There's a fair amount of that in her books, and I think even though the Iron Curtain was torn down and we don't have the Cold War anymore, people today are totally faced with issues about where they might want to live for economic reasons, political reasons. Someone today could easily be faced in the situation that Elizabeth, the main character from Geschwister, her brother Uli, the decision he has to make, that he's in fact going to have to leave his country, leave his family, his dearly beloved sister behind, because it's the only way he can really live the way he wants to, make money, have a career. These decisions are going on all over the world as we speak, and I think Brigitte Reimann, she locks horns with exactly the kind of issues of what it felt like to live in the East German state, without being ideological or she was herself. She was a convinced socialist. She stayed there. She could have defected herself. She stayed there. She believed in socialism. She had huge problems with the actual day-to-day system. She got into a lot of trouble. But she was a really talented writer. She was a having it woman as well, you know, and she was married, but she had affairs. She had kind of an arrangement, and I think what people would now call open relationships, she was pioneering them in the 60s. She reminds me a bit of Brigitte Reimann in an obscure way of Doris Lessing, in the same kind of way, someone who had her own political convictions, but also wrote very much about the behind the scenes, as it were. There's a really obvious comparison is with Christa Wolf. For people who don't know, Christa Wolf is the other famous East German female writer, who also, at around the same time as Geschwister, she wrote Der geteilte Himmel, The Divided Sky. I think her books were very important to people after she died in both Germanys, but particularly in East Germany. She was writing with a kind of honesty that was quite rare. I think even when it came out in the 70s, it was hugely refreshing for people.